Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ypsilanti Area Discussers, a podcast made by Ypsilanti people for everybody. My name is Mark Hergott, and my guest for this episode is Ginger Chase. Ginger has been a visual artist, an advocate, a massage therapist, a friend, and a student, and is once again returning to the classroom here in Ypsilanti for her master's degree afforded by Eastern Michigan University. Ginger, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, this is a general human interest interview. We worked on this together before we started recording. Full disclosure is key. With that in mind, what do you say you do when someone asks, "What do you do?"
That's a good question. Well, I work as a massage therapist. I'm helping out with my friend's campaign for Washtenaw County Sheriff, and I'm getting more involved in local politics. And I'm also gearing up for grad school for my MFA in studio art.
All right, Ginger. I am new to interviewing, but I love talking to people and learning about them. What made you decide to take a chance on this interview?
Yeah, I've known you, Mark, for over a year now, and I'm happy to be interviewed by you.
What made you decide to go back to school for your MFA, and why did you pick Eastern as the school to do it?
I started my MFA in jewelry and metalsmithing at Rhode Island School of Design back in 2010, and I bombed terribly. I didn't make it a semester. It was a wake up call for me to continue to heal. I had a lot of relational trauma and I had a limited support system. And when I started school, I had deep anxiety about my worth and making. I was in trauma land. I felt very disconnected to the world and to myself. I was accepted to the top programs in jewelry and metalsmithing and wasn't able to enjoy the process at all. I'm now excited to be connected to so many more people, have more and better relationships, have more meaning that's broader than the art world. I'm excited to get to make art that exists outside galleries. I feel excited to play. Eastern isn't making me choose a discipline. The professors are supportive and it's flexible with other facets of my life. And it's local. After a long, deep struggle, I've decided to embrace my home county.
Visual artists take the electromagnetic radiation bouncing off of everything and turn it into meaning. Podcasters turn vibrations in air into meaning. Why do you find visual arts so compelling? I thought asking a visual artist to describe that with sound would be a challenge, by the way.
Well, I really like patterns, visual, thought, systemic, emotional. I really love beauty and find it in rust and holes in leaves in the natural world. I like visual metaphor. I like the poetry art objects can express, the sorrow, the joy. The visual arts has an interesting place in our culture, and I'm interested in using art as a relational experience.
Massage therapy is essentially using touch to bring meaning. How do you think your experiences as a massage therapist translate into your visual art?
So, massage is very tactile. I'm basically sensing layers of a person with my hands or awareness. Sometimes it feels very much like making a reverse sculpture. I'm softening hardened muscles, unsticking fascia, and I'm soothing people. It can be meditative. It depends on the client and the day. Massaging can range from deep and spiritually profound to a bit lonely. The meaning is really what the client is open to receiving or experiencing and what I'm capable of giving or being a conduit for. In a different way, massage can prime me for creativity. I think massage does a few things. It can give me time to process or meditate or think creatively if my mind wanders and I relax. It can be a profound experience in and of itself. Like art, there's a relational and subjective quality to the experience. Sometimes my massages feel like art.
As a moderator for a local Facebook group, I've become pretty aware of local politics over the years. What do you like about our political scene, and what do you think could stand to change?
I like that more people are getting involved. I'm really glad to be around people talking about the real issues in the county. I was struck when I was at Leah Chapman's campaign launch. She's running for District 5 County Commissioner seat. And I was struck by the extreme differences between the concerns in Ann Arbor and west of US 23 and the concerns of people east of US 23. The hierarchy of needs issues are in general vastly different. People are worried about their survival in the east, while folks in Ann Arbor can debate the finer points of bike lanes. The minutia and detail that can be passionately debated and talked about, take up public energy, resources, and concern is mind-boggling when there are people unhoused, dying from gun violence and drugs. There are food deserts, a lack of community agency, lack of community centers and funding. And organic community leaders are unable to afford the gas they need to drop off groceries to neighbors. So people are stepping up to make changes, and there's such a vast disparity of resources. I'm struck by how little awareness folks in Ann Arbor have for the lives of folks east of in the east side of the county. There are many elected officials who get into politics to better themselves, and it plays out in ugly ways with greed and conflicts of interest. But you have a whole lot of homegrown folks who are coming into community, who come from a community that deeply care and are running to make positive change and really benefit their people. I'm excited to support my good friend Alicia Dyer, who's running for Washtenaw County Sheriff, and so happy that Alex Thomas is running for Ypsi Township Supervisor and Risha Brown is running for Ypsi Township Trustee. Really excited that Leah Chapman is running for County Commissioner. Leslie Blackburn is running for Lodi Township Trustee. Once Alicia threw her hat in the race, it seemed like several of her friends followed, so it just feels like good change is afoot.
I am a resident of Ypsilanti. You live where you live. How do you think your neighbors can best be approached about these serious issues?
Yeah, that's a big question. I have one neighbor friend who's also concerned and aware and is good friends with Desiree Simmons, who's a local politician. There's a couple who's in the process of moving to Ypsi. They, along with the other neighbor, they've been more active in larger politics, sort of in the support for divesting resources from Israel. I think it's hard to get people to engage beyond their privilege. I just talked with an Ann Arbor friend of mine, about disparity. We share a studio space in Ypsilanti. I think it's people being willing to be uncomfortable. With white supremacy, it's all about giving up the idea that you're the star and that you know best, or thinking in exploitive terms, or intellectualizing and distancing yourself from, the others who are experiencing the pain. Being in Black spaces can feel uncomfortable because as white folks, we are so often catered to, or at least feel in control. I think what I'm trying to do is listen and lead by example. Guilt trips and pointing out hypocrisy is exhausting and alienating. People don't really like that. I have a lot of mixed feelings about how art is a way of bringing folks into Black spaces, or at least to be aware of, racial disparities. But I may want to make work that's more subtle and speaks of disparity in different ways. I usually imagine Ann Arbor sucking resources from Ypsilanti, so maybe along with work that's about water and racial, social injustice, I can make work that highlights wealth gaps. I'm imagining working with a graphic designer to draw a large tree that is Ann Arbor with its hungry roots sucking from Ypsi, leading it shaded under resourced, and highlight the vast differences in hierarchy of needs. I can sort of now see this animation. Of course, I need to delve deeper into the policies and factors that keep the Ypsi area from being as resourced. So I don't know that it's Ann Arbor necessarily sucking resources, although there are instances of that. I know that, policies like that, promote over policing, are part of the creation of that disparity. So I'm imagining this graphic on buses or billboards or in the Observer. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what effect it would have. I think there's also having real community advocates in government. So that's another place where I think things could change. Like having Leah Mills Chapman as a county commissioner, or Alex Thomas, or Alicia Dyer as sheriff. I think that having, people who really care about the community and really care about the real issues in the community in local government can make a big difference. I also really appreciate Yusuf Rabi from Ann Arbor, being willing to push back against abuses of power and you know, potential misallocation of funding or, you know, whatever. I appreciate leaders who are willing to speak up. So I think that those are other good ways of getting these issues addressed.
Thank you so much for your time. Would you like to add any projects or efforts to the conversation?
Thank you, Mark. What thought-provoking questions. They really helped me clarify, some of my vision for my master's degree and ongoing work, highlighting connections between politics and art. I'm deeply concerned about public safety and the public safety and mental health millage. It reads as a money grab for the sheriff's office, exploiting the county's concern for mental health to further bolster an already flush sheriff's office. I'm continuing to advocate for not renewing the millage and creating a new one that represents the real needs of the community. Um, Politics around this are pretty ugly. And it's another reason why elected officials, especially the sheriff and commissioners, matter. So vote in primaries. Big deal this year, especially the August 6th primaries where we elect a new sheriff and when the county commissioner seats are competitive. You can vote early. The sheriff's race is incredibly important. The sheriff has the largest portion of the county budget and is the highest ranking county elected official. We need a sheriff who's committed to ending traffic stop quotas, who refuses to sell out our undocumented neighbors to ICE with voluntary detainerships, who's an advocate for and committed to transparency, who cares about environmental and financial crimes. We need a sheriff willing to address systemic racism in practical and meaningful ways. We need a sheriff who isn't beholden to the old guard and doesn't have personal conflicts of interest. We need Alicia Dyer for Washtenaw County Sheriff. My efforts through August 6th will continue to go towards electing Alicia Dyer as Washtenaw County Sheriff. Aim higher!
Vote Dyer. Okay, so that was my very first podcast interview. I've done a few other coffee clatches with some local people. Thanks for listening, and I hope these get better. Again, I really appreciate all of your time.